Uh-oh. What's going on? Is it? Oh, all right. There we go. Okay. All right, cool. All righty. Here we go. Good evening. I'm going to just have to work with it here, but I don't like this here. I don't really like that. I'm going to put that over there. All righty. I like it's so crazy, like watching it on Instagram. It's like slow. Yeah, I'm watching myself. All right, y'all. How y'all doing tonight? I'm doing pretty good. Not gonna listen to me? You're not gonna listen? Oh, okay. All right, y'all. So let's just get right into it. So tonight we're just going to talk about trauma. Now, the reason why I want to talk about trauma is because a lot of us experience trauma, a lot of us. And the main thing that we have that we don't do is we don't heal. Okay. And then what happens with trauma is that we just kind of suppress it. It doesn't really bother us anymore. So we think that we have healed from it. But before we do that, I do want to do my intro. Sandy Streets is a podcast for the awakening soul. This is where we get real and we see the world as it is. I would encourage you guys to subscribe to my YouTube and help my channel grow. And you are notified when new content is released. Now let's heal the streets. Okay, so trauma. What is trauma? Trauma is the response to an event. It's the response to an event that causes physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual distress. Okay, so with trauma is our body's response. So that's our fight or flight response. That's where we go hyper or we go hypo. Hyper is where we are this is where somebody just goes off the handle. Okay, you cannot control your emotions. When you go hyper, this is where you say and do things that you'll later regret. And then hypo is the total opposite. So that's where you completely shut down. Okay, so now we have what is called a window of tolerance, and that's where we really want to be. That's where most of us are at right now. This you're in your window of tolerance, you're in your comfort zone, your emotions are safe, you feel great. Now, what happens is when we have unhealed trauma, and I've said this before, we know that it affects us in all levels physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So it causes that distress. Energetically, it lowers our vibration. Spiritually, this is where it blocks our intuition. Mentally, oh gosh, mentally, it really messes us up. But what it does to us mentally is trauma creates what are called ants, and ants are automatic negative thoughts. And then emotionally it causes those just distressing feelings. So through from traumatic events people can experience anxiety, depression, fear, PTSD, stuff like that. Now I really want to talk about the difference between childhood trauma and adulthood trauma. Now what about trauma is that it can compound, and what I mean by compound is like you can have trauma from your childhood that's not resolved, and then you experience trauma in your adulthood, and then now it's just packing up on top of each other like dirty clothes in a hamper. Okay, but the thing with childhood trauma can be created unintentionally. And this is what we have to realize. So, with children need to be safe, they need to be protected, and their emotions need to be met. Okay. And when that doesn't happen, that creates childhood wounds. Childhood wounds turn into adulthood wounds. Okay. So we really have to get to a understanding of what we could do to our children mentally. Now, before we start, I am going to tell you guys that during my spiritual healing, I had to come face to face with a lot of things that I didn't want to accept or I didn't think was true. So you have to realize that when I say certain things, when I say we, I'm talking about I. I'm talking about all of us. I'm not just putting anybody out there. I don't want anybody to be offended. But then again, if you do feel offended, then there really could be something going on that has absolutely nothing to do with me. Okay. So here's how childhood trauma is created unintentionally. Ladies, so let's just go here. Ladies, one. Now, as single mothers, there's a lot of things that we typically like to do with our boys. One thing, two things that we have to stop doing. One, we have to stop telling our boys that they cannot cry and they cannot emotionally express themselves. Okay? Because that creates a childhood wound. And then as an adult, the male becomes emotionally unavailable. So we might think as single mothers that we're toughening our child up, but we're not. We are mentally, emotionally breaking them down. They are children. All children's needs need to be met. So if we're telling our children that they cannot cry and they cannot express themselves, their needs are not being met. Okay. So being an emotionally unavailable adult, now you have a full-blown grown man who, for one, don't know nothing about his emotions, can't express them. So there's no way that he can meet the needs of anybody else. I don't care if it's a woman, his child, he can't even meet his own needs. So at the end of the day, that's what that does. Okay, that is what that does. It The man has no zero communication skills, none whatsoever. Okay. And then two, stop treating your son like that's your man. Okay. So here's the thing with that. Now, I know that a narcissist can be made from a lot of different things, but if I had to put it on a scale, I would say that that was probably not the number one, but close to it. Okay. Because when you treat your son like he's your man, the end result of that is that he grows up to resent you. And in the process of resenting you, okay, no, he's probably not going to show you, but now he energetically attracts women that are just like you and he takes it out on them. So now you have this narcissistic man, all because all it takes here is for us to realize that we need proper healing. Okay. That's it. It just takes realization. Realization. Okay. Now, let me talk about with our daughters. Okay. Because let our daughters be daughters. They're not our friends. Okay. This could go for our sons too, but particularly with our daughters. And we have to realize that when we set that healthy boundary, again, that creates a healthy boundary for her as she gets older. Now she becomes a woman with healthy boundaries. I know that there's a lot of people on here growing up, you didn't have healthy boundaries. We It took for me to heal, for me to find out what a healthy boundary was. To realize that not only did I not have healthy boundaries, but my boundaries weren't respected when I was a child. Okay, so we have to realize that. But what it does in a sense of not being able to create those boundaries, you have now a woman that there's no limit to what she might or might not deal with. Okay. So I'm pretty sure we have all come encounter with things where you say, oh, yeah, I'll never do that, or I'll never accept that. And then it's in your face and you don't know what to do. Look at me. So listen here, like I said, I'm not here to judge nobody. I'm not here to be judged, although I really wouldn't care because at the end of the day, I have learned to accept myself, flaws and all. That's one benefit of healing. I learned how to love myself and accept myself for everything that I had done. But there was a lot of things that I had to realize that I was doing but here's the thing though. I didn't even realize that I was doing half of the stuff that I was doing, especially to my kids, because I was so messed up myself. Okay. So it's like you think you're not being harmful. Just like I said, trauma can be created unintentionally. So you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm not doing it with harmfulness in my heart. I'm doing it with good intentions, but then the end result isn't always that great. So we just have to be careful with that. Now, another thing with our daughters is s- we gotta be careful about raising our daughters to be strong, independent Black women. Okay. Because here's the thing with that, when you grow up, now we live in a society where that's so common because of us being single mothers and stuff like that. But what it what it does is it creates an emotionally unavailable woman. Okay, because as if there's emotionally unavailable men, there is emotionally unavailable woman. There is narcissistic men and there is narcissistic women. Okay, emotionally unavailable. But here's the thing though. So when we raising our daughters up to be these strong Black independent women just like us, yada yada yada. But here's the thing though, we see all these posts on Facebook about, oh, check on your strong friends because they're not okay. But let me tell you what it really does in reality. Okay, so the strong friend, the one that's always strong, the one that got any situation to come at them, oh, they handle it, they take care of it, they do this, they do that. You are portraying to the world that that's how it is. So when you are actually going through something, nobody's going to check on you because at the end of the day, you're the one who's displaying that you're this strong person. So if you is going through something and somebody notices it, they're probably just going to be like, "Oh no, she's okay, she's strong." In our community, we have to, I don't know what it is about us not being able to one express ourselves, two be able to communicate with each other. Okay, there's so much lack of communication. Listen, y'all, we got to do better. That's all I'm saying. We just have to do better. Okay, like physically, mentally, emotionally, we have to do better as a race. Okay, so like, but I do, let me back it up because I do want to say something about our daughters and creating those healthy boundaries. Now, I know that like not all of us and some of us, and maybe like the generation before us, there was a time when children couldn't even be in the same room as adults. Okay. Treating our children like they are our friends. For one, it doesn't create a healthy boundary. And for two, it doesn't create respect. We have to start realizing okay, at the end of the day, we have to start taking accountability for our parenting. Okay, because if we don't, then who is? We have to take accountability. We have to say, you know what? That is not okay. Experiencing trauma after trauma after trauma is not okay. It's not healthy neither. It's not healthy neither. The main reason why it's not healthy is because trauma is stored within our bodies. Okay, so we pass trauma to our children. All right. Now, we talk so much about breaking generational curses, but we are out here creating new ones. Okay, and again, I'm not coming at nobody if you're just joining me, but you have to realize that at the end of the day that these things are just not okay. But I can understand it though because I was there. I was there. I understand it. I know it. I see it. I seen it within myself what I was doing. Well, I mean, I didn't see it at that time what I was doing in the parenting and how it affected my children. Then when I started to heal, I'm like, okay, that wasn't okay. Okay. Telling my younger son that he can't cry because he's a boy was not okay. Okay. I had to deal with a 7-year-old who was an emotional wreck. That was my fault. That's what I did because I told him from 4 or 5 years old that he couldn't cry because he was a boy. So we have to take accountability for the things that we do as well. Yes, trauma can be caused by an actual traumatic experience, okay? But there's a lot of trauma that we cause unintentionally. Now, what I was talking about when I said the trauma stores in our body, we pass it to our children. Okay, so now this is what I had to realize because I got 4 kids. So my first was born with any trauma that I had from my childhood. My second was born with any trauma that I had my childhood, any trauma that I experienced from after I had my oldest. Then my third was born with any trauma that I experienced. Y'all get where I'm going here. My fourth was listen to me. Okay, listen to me. It stores in our body. I don't know if y'all remember on the very first podcast I talked about the experiment that the scientists did with the mice, where 5 generations later they were still responding to a traumatic event that had absolutely nothing to do with them. Okay, our children are born with our unresolved trauma, and it's so crazy because in my youngest is 2. Like there was like little stuff that I would see in him, like he actually still does it. By the way, he snaps out if you tell him no. Okay. And the thing about it is, we have been so programmed and conditioned to think that that is okay. There is nothing okay with a 2-year-old snapping out. Oh, he's just 2. No. Why are you snapping out? Why are you becoming so emotional about somebody telling you that you can't do something? 2-year-old or not? Like you gotta look outside of the box, or you gotta just think about stuff for a minute though. At the end of the day, like what is okay about that? I don't really see nothing okay with a 2-year-old snapping out. But then when you think about it, when I think about it, I'm like, well, I mean, shoot, he got 32 years of trauma in him just from me. I said 32. I ain't 32. Slaps me. But listen though, he got 30 something years of trauma in him from me. He got 30 something years of trauma in him from his dad. Child, listen. What two? And then he bites his nails. What 2-year-old bites his nails? I'm like, yeah, okay. Okay. So now, before we move forward, I want y'all to know that this is a safe space. Okay. Because I don't have pride. All right. I dissolved that because I decided that loving myself was way more important than being defended, to being offensive, being offended, always defending and reasoning myself. Mm-mm. We one thing that we got to stop doing is we have to stop putting these capes on. Okay, stop trying to be superwoman and superman. At the end of the day, love yourself. Put yourself first. You are the ultimate priority in your life. Okay. And the reason why I say this is because, regardless if you have children or not, and we have been taught that, oh, we give our children a world, but how do you do that if you can't even give it to yourself first? You have to be able to look yourself in the mirror, accept what you see, flaws and all, and be like, okay, you know what? I'm good. We look at each other with the mindset that we have to compare ourselves, or we are different from one another, and we're not. We're all the same. We're all under the universal law of oneness. But you yourself, you have to be able to love yourself. Putting these capes on, self-sacrificing, those are all low vibrational behaviors. Putting other people's feelings before you put your own does not make you a good person. It makes you a self-sacrificer, makes you a people pleaser. Do you want to be like that the rest of your life, or do you want to put you before anybody else on the face of the earth? What is it? FTK? Fuck them kids. No, I'm just joking. But seriously, though, you have to realize that as a parent, we cannot physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually be there for our children if we can't do it for ourselves. I don't care who it is. I don't care who you are. Okay. Like, like I said, I was so messed up that I didn't even realize what I was doing to my own children. And that's a sad part. It's not sad now, but looking back at it, that was a very sad time for me. But hey, you live and you learn. You grow and you evolve. You heal and you move forward. Now, what I want to talk about next is trauma bonding and trauma coupling, which is just about the same thing. Okay, so trauma bonding, we all know what trauma bonding is. A lot of people are friends just off of trauma bonding. I know that I had a couple of friends just off of trauma bonding. We were going through the same thing with either our baby's dads or something like that. And we're like, oh, yeah, come on, girl, let's go out. We got a lot in common. Trauma bonding. Okay. Now, now listen, I told y'all this is a safe space, but we're going to talk about it. Street men. Street men. Let's just talk about it for a minute. Okay. And we're gonna talk about it because I mean, listen, all my motherfucking babies, oh, let me stop because all my babies dads is street men, street niggas. Every single last one of them. First one, deceased. Second one, in the feds. Third one, just got indicted. Okay. So if you really want to know how I got on to my spiritual journey, because I got to a point in my life and I asked myself, how does this keep happening to me? How do I keep getting the same type of mother? How? But see, there, here we go. Because I talked about it before. Your energy, you attract what you are energetically attracted to. But when you think about it, though, you have street men. Most of the guys who are in the streets have experienced trauma since they were children. And of course, they haven't healed, but they've become so used to it. It's not even necessarily that they become so used to it. What happens is when you experience trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, guess what it does? It becomes an addiction. This is how addictions get started, from trauma when it's not healed. So now your brain literally becomes addicted to being either hyper or hypo, your fight or flight response. So, like I said, on the energetic level, it lowers your vibration. So now you're just attracting all types of trauma to you. So just think about, from a mindset, or even just an energetic level of where a person who experiences trauma like that has to be sitting. And then we go and mess with them. Yes, we do. Then turn around, have kids now. On top of that, like I said, all man's is. This is a safe space. I ain't got nothing to be worried about. I ain't got nothing to have from y'all. I ain't scared to say nothing about what's going on with me, because at the end of the day, I was the person who had to face everything with me. Okay. So there ain't nothing nobody can say to embarrass me, or there ain't nothing nobody can say to be like, oh, well, listen here. At the end of the day, I was the person who was looking in the mirror at the worst part of me, and I accepted that. But ladies, we got to be real with ourselves at the end of the day. Okay. Now, hold on. Before I go further, I do want to say something, because I told y'all before that I'm real big on astrology. If you are not compatible with somebody, look it up. Okay. Ask people, when's your birthday? What's your sign? If you is not compatible with people, don't mess with them, because you about to waste a whole bunch. You about to waste your time. Y'all both about to waste your time. If y'all not compatible with each other, y'all not going to work out. I did it for 6 years and got 2 kids out the deal too. Two, not one, two. 2 kids by somebody I wasn't even compatible with. Okay. All right, but back to what I was saying. Now, what really do we have in common with street men? Trauma. That's exactly what we have in common with them. I know that I might get a lot of backlash, because there's a lot of men that are in the streets and stuff like that. But then again, you have to realize that, baby, if you don't heal, you ain't gonna do nothing but hurt everybody you encounter. We already know hurt people hurt people. So don't look at me like I'm the bad guy. I'm just bringing it to the light. You got to realize that at the end of the day, boo. For one, if you ain't compatible with them, and for two, if the lifestyle that they live in isn't compatible with yours, you get up and go to work every day. What really is that bringing to your life? Money, fun, but at the end of the day, is it worth it? That's really up to you. But so what I'm going to talk about next is, so you got trauma bonding and trauma cycling. Next, you got trauma bonding and coupling. Now we're going to talk about trauma cycling. Okay. So just like I mentioned earlier, I kept asking myself, I got to a point in my life where I just kept asking myself, why does this keep happening? How does this keep happening? It goes in a cycle. It goes in a cycle. So like I said, trauma is stored within our bodies. Okay. If you don't heal, it's stored within your body. I'm gonna give y'all just a super simple example of trauma cycling. Okay. So, and this is just an example off the top of my head. So say you have a child who grew up in a dysfunctional family or a dysfunctional home. The parents was always fighting, stuff would get rough. And then you have the oldest child who would take the younger two and go hide somewhere, or like in the closet, and like hover over them. So what had happened in the person's adulthood is, most likely, if they don't heal from that childhood trauma, they're going to attract a man that's going to bring that type of energy to them, unbeknownst. Okay. So now you have the oldest child who was, protecting the children, goes and gets married, has a child, and comes to find out she married a narcissistic, abusive man. And then in her adulthood, what she does is, when they get into arguments, she barricades her and her kids. That's trauma cycling. Okay. So let me give y'all the definition of trauma cycling. Trauma cycling is where you experience trauma over and over again with different people in different circumstances. So let me tell you one thing about me. Now, growing up, I seen what alcoholism did to my mother. Okay, my brother was murdered when I was what, 7? So like I seen the effects of what happened to my mom after that and how alcohol was a coping method for her. But even though it was a coping method for her, there were still things that were done to us as her children. Okay. And me and my sister, we used to always tell ourselves like we would never do that to our children. We would never expose our children to stuff like that. But when I went through some of the hardest times in my life, I did the same exact thing. I used alcohol as a coping method. I'm sitting there looking at my mother in the mirror. That's basically what I was doing. I'm creating trauma all over again with my children. And at that time, I'm dealing with, okay, so I was one dealing with a street nigga, then a narcissistic. Okay, so like, y'all got to bear with me here because dealing with a narcissist is one thing, dealing with a street nigga is one thing. Both of them combined is like insanity. Okay. So if you could just imagine just for 1 second what I was going through. Like, just listen for 1 second. Okay. So alcohol was my coping method. Okay. There was a certain point in time in my life where I was an alcoholic. I drank every single day. There wasn't a day that went past that I didn't have a can of beer in my hand. I had uh I had a bar at that time in my house. My bar was filled with liquor and like I drank every single day to escape my daily reality. All I was doing was just repeating the cycle, repeating the cycle, repeating the cycle. It's not a generational curse, it's a trauma cycle. Okay. There's a lot of things that we get from our childhood. Okay. That I wouldn't necessarily say is generational curses because we pick up a lot of behavior from our parents, okay, from their trauma. And then when we go through trauma, we do the same exact thing. So now, so let me just talk about one thing, okay? What trauma can do is trauma creates trapped emotions and triggers, okay? So trapped emotions is where we start suppressing stuff. Okay, I had put something on the internet today because I love other people's perspectives of life. I love how other people view things. Okay, like we I'm gonna talk about I'm gonna get in deeper into perspective. I'm actually gonna talk about that next week, but the reason why I love having other people's perspective is because once you realize that other people's perspective isn't right or wrong versus yours, this is when you can begin to have healthy conversations with people. Okay, because it's not always about if you're right and I'm wrong. It's just how you see the world versus how I see the world. No two people are going to view the world the same exact way. So you have somebody looking at the world from a healthy lens, and then you have somebody looking at the world from an unhealthy lens. Okay, so we have to realize that people can differ from our opinions, and that is absolutely okay. Okay, like you can't be upset at somebody that they don't agree with how you see something. Like it sounds childish in a way, but it happens all the time, especially with the debates you see on Facebook about okay, whatever. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Trapped emotions. Suppressing trauma creates trapped emotions. Triggers. Triggers are the extreme emotional response that we get. But when we experience a trigger, it does not come from the actual event that is taking place. Okay. So I'm gonna give y'all an example. Let me just give y'all an example. I'm gonna give y'all an example of something that displays both trapped emotions and triggers. Road rage. Road rage is a prime example. Trapped emotions. When you have trapped emotions, something as simple as driving can be a very stressful experience for you. Triggers. Why are you upset that somebody cut you off? You're not upset that somebody cut you off. Okay? We have to realize that triggers, we get that same emotional response, that extreme emotional response, but it's really not the situation at bay that is causing it. So this is when you got to think about, you got to sit back and realize, okay, so just we got to start looking at things from a different perspective. Okay? I said road rage. You are highly upset that somebody cut you off. We have seen incidents where people have lost their lives, people have gotten shot. A lot of weird stuff has happened behind road rage. And it's like, okay, so what is really going on here? What's really going on here? Because there's no way that you could be that upset that somebody cut you off when in reality, you never know what is going on with that person. Did you stop to think that maybe their mother is being rushed to the hospital and they're on their way there? Did you ever stop to think that maybe they have a condition and they have to use the bathroom? Did you ever think that maybe, the person who cut you off, their wife is in labor, they're trying to get to the hospital? No. You get upset because somebody cuts you off. That we got to make things make sense. Okay, at the end of the day, we have to start making stuff make sense. I question everything. Okay, I question everything, but the reason why I question everything is because it gives me the opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. Okay, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. But the thing about it is, I don't understand why you would get so upset when you cut people when somebody cuts you off. When we do the same thing too. Like if you're in a rush and you got to get somewhere, you might cut somebody off, and then they give you the finger. Like there's no real reason behind road rage as to why you would be in that much emotional distress just from driving. Okay. So now the last thing that I want to talk about before we get up out of here is I want to talk about what I mentioned earlier is ants. Okay, those are automatic negative thoughts. Okay. Now, a lot of our thought patterns are created from childhood. Okay. We have what is called limited beliefs. Limited beliefs are where you tell yourself, I'm not worthy, I'm not strong enough, I'll never find true love. Like, those are limited beliefs, but a lot of limited beliefs, we form our belief systems between the ages of 5 and 8. So a lot of our belief systems, we have to realize aren't even ours. Okay. And another thing that you have to realize with belief systems is that they are not facts. It's not a stone cold fact. It's a limited belief. This is where okay, so if you do you believe in true love? Do you believe that you have a soulmate? A lot of people may think that they don't have a soulmate because they keep attracting narcissistic men or they keep attracting emotionally unavailable men. But that's an automatic negative thought pattern. And what happens is once our brain visits the same neural path so many times, it becomes a pattern. So that's where you get the automatic from. So if you keep dealing with the same type of individual, there's a good chance that in the back of your mind, subconsciously, you're telling yourself, I'll never find true love. Okay. And when you start to break out of those negative thought patterns and you start retraining your mind, because that's what healing is. Healing is about retraining your mind, reprogramming yourself, providing yourself safety, the safety that you didn't have as a child, the protection that you didn't have as a child, the wounds that you experienced as a child, the wounds that you experience as an adult. You are able to heal yourself and put your focus on being one instead of, how can I say this? Because you put, so here's the thing though, because what you put your focus on, what you put your time on is most likely what you are going to attract. Okay? But with the limited beliefs, you have to realize that when you tell yourself things, this is why I told y'all have to be careful about what you say to yourself. Okay? Because what you tell yourself, you are giving your brain commission to make that part of your reality. Trapped emotions. This is stress, anxiety, fear. Okay. So let me tell you how trapped emotions show up when you have tightening in your chest, unexplainable. Okay, because we have to realize that trauma is stored in our body. So here comes the physical ailments. You physically get sick when trauma is stuck in your body. You physically get sick when your chakras are blocked. You physically get sick. There's a lot of unexplained diseases and stuff that the doctors don't know, but they come from stress. Okay, panic attacks. These are trapped emotions. Headaches. Headaches are a trapped emotion, whether we want to believe it or not. Yeah, you could possibly be dehydrated too. But if you have unexplainable headaches, migraines, it's trapped emotion. Okay. Now, the one thing with the limited beliefs is people who always think the worst of things. That is a limited belief. Oh, I'm gonna be positive, but I'm gonna still prepare myself for the worst. Preparing yourself for the worst is putting the energy in the universe. So you may as well expect it. Because why would you prepare for the worst? But then again, that's what we've been taught. We've been taught to prepare for the worst. Why? Just think about that. Think about why we have been taught that. So now I really want to keep, I'm gonna just keep this brief. Okay, because what we have to start doing is we have to start being more positive. We have to start operating off of unconditional love more. We have to start having being joyful and experiencing gratitude. And but the reason why we don't do this is because we don't look. We always look at the current situation. Okay, so one thing I've learned is that there's no past and there's no future. Everything is in the present. Everything is here and now. Okay, so you get to a point in your life where you get so stressed out, whatever it is, regardless if it's bills, kids, whatever, you get to the point where you get so stressed out that you can't see the good in things. Okay, like, and that's the part that we have to get back to just as human beings, just as individuals. Okay, we have to always look at the brighter side of things. Like, you may not wake up. You may wake up and got $3 in your bank account, knowing you got $500 worth of bills coming out in a couple of days. But if you could just be grateful that You woke up. You woke up in your bed. You woke up in your house. You still have your car. Your lights are on. You're fed. Your children are fed. Your children are clothed. Like, we have to start looking at the brighter sides of things. Like, we have to be grateful. We have to be joyful, even if our situation does not reflect that. But your situation shouldn't make you who you are. Okay, there should always be a brighter side to you versus what you are going through. And like, but I don't mean it as in like you are now faking it until you make it, but you are grateful about you. Okay. Okay, so now I know that it's my time is wrapping up here. So I do want to let y'all know that I have some really exciting news for y'all. So the three-part spiritual guide that I was creating is completed. Okay, now I actually did not have enough time to put it on my website, but it will be up there tonight. I guarantee that. Now, the three-part spiritual healing guide that I created, one, it's three parts. So it's self-soothe, self-heal, self-love. Okay. So the guide teaches you how to self-soothe yourself. This is where you are controlling your emotions. You are having healthy conversations. You are emotionally safe. Self-heal. This is where any type of trauma that you have ever been through, you can heal that. You can heal that. You can do that. Self-love. It teaches you how to love yourself. Put yourself first. Now, I know that with self-love, there is this, it can be referred to as being selfish or like narcissistic behavior. But let me tell you something, child, when you self-love yourself, this is where you start smiling a little bit more. You start feeling a little bit better in here. And when you start feeling a little bit better in here, now you raising your vibration. So now you attracting new people, new experiences, new places, all types of stuff. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you loving the mess out of yourself. Okay. But back to the three-part guide. Now, I also included some meditations. Okay. Like, there's this one meditation that I did. I probably cried after I did it. Like, so I had got this, I had got like a couple of books off of Amazon, like meditation books, like scripts and stuff like that, so that I can know what to say. Like, and this one like took me out. It's called The Inner Child. This is where you go in and you heal your inner child. Okay. Now, one thing that we with spiritual healing is you don't have to relive your traumatic experiences in order to heal. Okay. And with the three-part guide, you can heal at your own pace, because I know that, we work, we got school. Now it's football season. Some people, some kids play fall ball. So, like, oh, excuse me. So, like, not everybody has the time to, maybe do like one-on-ones. Like, I know like a lot of people do like the more one-on-one contacts, which is absolutely fine. And shout outs to my customers. I love you guys. But well, my clients, I love you guys. But with the three-part spiritual healing guide, you are able to do everything that I just said on your own. And you are able to do it at your pace. But I will tell you this, one thing about a self-healing guide is you have to apply what it is that you're learning to your life. Because if you start it, then you stop it, then you start it, then you stop it, or you start it, then you go back to the person that you need to heal from. Or you start it and then you engage in activities that you know that you shouldn't. It's not going to seem like it's a benefit to you. You have to be ready to be like, okay, you know what? I'm ready for a change. I'm tired, not necessarily tired, but I can't keep doing this to me. That's why I told, put yourself first. You are the highest priority in your life. You have to realize, tell yourself, I can't keep doing this to me. Okay, because what you do to you affects everybody around you, especially our children. All right, guys. Well, that is actually all that I have for you guys tonight. And I want to thank you so much for joining me. Again, the three-part healing guide will be on my website tonight. My website it's on my Facebook. But I'll tell you guys, it's swalkinc.org. Okay. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sandy Street. And I will see you guys next week. Next week, I'm actually going to talk about the ego. Okay, I do want to let you guys know what I'm going to talk about next week. Or you know what, as a matter of fact, this is what I'm going to let y'all do. How about y'all just put in the comments, because I said it last week, but I want y'all to put in the comments what y'all want me to talk about next week, and then we'll go from there. But I'm going to have a special guest for you guys next week. So y'all going to be kicking it with Sandy Streets and a special guest. And I just want to thank you all so much for joining me tonight and learning about trauma. And again, I love you guys. Bye. Yeah, that was really cool that it was on the computer. And it was super crisp. See, I think a lot better with my phone. Hold on, it's still live. Oh, that's probably why I won't annoy here.